Welcome to Software Heresy video number 3. In this one, we're going to talk about a design principle or a set of design principles that's known as SOLID. So I'm going to be advocating for NoSOLID. The usual warning or disclaimer: heresy can be a bit uncomfortable or even insulting. The reality is, for many of these topics, I don't know how to talk about them without being at least a little insulting to some of my audience. And since I'm trying to change your mind and go against things that you may believe strongly, inherently, to re-examine those, it's probably going to be a little uncomfortable. Try not to take it personally. So SOLID is a set of 5 principles. It'll be named, each of the letters is one of the letters in the word solid. And the assertion is that if you follow these 5 principles, you will end up with code that is well designed. And because there are 5 different principles, I'm just not going to say I hate them all. I'm going to walk through each of them and tell you what I think about each principle and what I think it drives is in terms of goodness or not goodness when it comes to software. So we start out with S, and S is single responsibility principle. And that's expressed as a class should only have a single responsibility. Or in other words, a class should only do one thing. I'm all behind SRP as a principle. I think there are some really interesting questions about what a responsibility is. And I find that I tend to have a much finer grained idea of what a single responsibility is. The next one is a principle called open-closed. And open-closed says software entities should be open for extension but closed for modification. New functionality should be implemented by adding new classes, attributes, and methods instead of changing the current ones. So we should take an additive approach to our existing software rather than modifying the stuff that we have there. I'm fully behind this for the most part if you are writing reusable libraries. If it's a library your team is creating and you're shipping it out to other people, not changing things in a way that might break things is a very good thing to do. Or to state it the other way, making changes that break your customers is a really bad thing to do. Most of us are not writing reusable libraries. And what that means is we're trying to decide whether having a clean implementation that does exactly what we want versus a kind of built-up implementation with different levels and different stuff kind of conglomerated together is better. I think that in general, I prefer the cleaner implementation. Like, one of the points of refactoring is to go back and fix things rather than just add new things on top of them. Now, another point is that most software is not currently in open-closed state. What does that mean? Well, if I want to add functionality, I can't do it in an open-closed state because the software is not currently open-closed. Therefore, if I wanted to add in an open-closed way, that would require refactoring that is not open-closed. Now, in general, I'm a big fan of doing refactoring to make it easy to add functionality. I just don't think I want to always require open-closed when I do that. I also think that understanding those refactorings and the resulting designs is way more important than open-closed in most cases. So that's open-closed. Liskov substitution principle. Objects in a program should be replaceable with instances of their subtypes without altering the correctness of the program. There's a lot of discussion about what Liskov actually means. You can easily spend an afternoon reading a whole bunch of different opinions. My opinion is that Liskov is sometimes a good idea, but not really a universal principle. Maybe it's a guideline in that sense. If you want some specifics, go and look at what's written about Liskov and look at the ellipse and circle problem. And that will talk about one of the issues that is problematic with Liskov. The other thing that I see problematic about it, one of the things I've always said I think is wrong with computer science education is when they introduce subclassing or subtyping, they give you the impression that you should actually use it. And in general, I think you should almost never use subclassing and subtyping. So what that means to me is, in general, I don't think you need to care a bunch about Liskov, because I don't think you should be using subclasses very much. Interface segregation principle. Many client-specific interfaces are better than one general-purpose interface. Clients should not be forced to depend upon methods that they do not use. This is fine when it aligns with SRP. I really don't see any difference why this principle is really different than SRP. It's really just talking about, small abstractions rather than bigger abstractions. And I suspect that one of the reasons this is in here is that if we didn't have the interface segregation principle, the set of principles would be known as SOLID rather than SOLID. And that just wouldn't be a very good, acronym to have for this set of principles. I also think that interface segregation principle doesn't work great when you want to have system-y sort of features. And by these, I mean things like I-comparable, I-formatable, things that many objects can provide, but really not everybody uses. Use patterns like whole value and value object, and I really like those patterns. I've been writing software long enough that my experience significantly predates the introduction of object-oriented programming. And back in the old days, we had functions and we had data. And I think that gave me a more data-centric way of looking at the world. So that's what I think about SOLID. Generally, with the exception of the D and maybe the I, I'm mostly okay with it, but I'm really not happy with the I and D. So that completes this session of Heresy. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you back for the next video. Thank you.